The anatomy of the inguinal canal. The inguinal region is the area present along and around the inguinal ligament. It lies at the junction of the anterior abdominal wall and the thigh. This region is important anatomically as structures enter and exit the abdominal cavity here. This is also a potential site of weakness, hence majority of abdominal hernias occur in this region, therefore making it clinically important. The inguinal ligament of Popat. It is a thick fibrous band formed by the lower free border of the external oblique aponeurosis. This border is thickened and folded backwards on itself. It extends from the anterior superior iliac spine to the pubic tubercle. The superior surface of the inguinal ligament is grooved and forms the floor of the inguinal canal. The inferior surface gives attachment to the deep fascia of the thigh, that is the fascia lata. This fascia pulls it inferiorly, making it convex downwards. The expansions from the inguinal ligament are important. Firstly is the lacunar ligament of Gimbernat. It is a triangular extension from the medial end, that is the deep fibers of the inguinal ligament, which curve backwards horizontally and attach to the medial part of the pecten pubis. This ligament is triangular with the apex attached to the pubic tubercle, and the sharp lateral border forms the medial boundary of the femoral canal, through which the femoral hernia occurs. The pectineal ligament of Cooper. It is an extension from the posterior part of the lacunar ligament which runs along the pecten pubis up to the iliopubic eminence. It is also considered as a thickening of the pectineal fascia. The reflected part of the inguinal ligament is an extension from the medial end, that is the superficial fibers of the inguinal ligament, which run upwards and medially, anterior or in front of the conjoint tendon. These fibers interlace with those of the opposite side at the linea alba. The inguinal canal. It is an oblique intermuscular passage which lies just above the medial half of the inguinal ligament. It extends from the deep inguinal ring up to the superficial inguinal ring. It is directed downwards, forwards and medially and is approximately 4 centimeters or 1.5 inch long. The inguinal canal extends from the deep inguinal ring up to the superficial inguinal ring. The deep inguinal ring is an oval opening present in the fascia transversalis. It lies approximately 1.25 centimeters, that is half an inch above the mid-inguinal point. It lies just lateral to the inferior epigastric artery, which is an important guide to the deep inguinal ring. The superficial inguinal ring is a triangular opening present in the aponeurosis of the external oblique muscle. It lies 1 centimeter above and lateral to the pubic tubercle. It is formed by the base is formed by the pubic crest. The two sides are formed by the crura, and at the apex the two crura join by intercrural fibers. It is approximately 1.2 centimeters broad at the base and the two crura are approximately 2.5 centimeters. The boundaries of the inguinal canal. Let us first revise the layers of the abdominal muscles. Most superficially lies the external oblique muscle. Then comes the internal oblique muscle, which is attached to the lateral 2/3 of the inguinal ligament. Deep to it lies the transversus abdominis. The aponeurotic fibers of internal oblique and transversus abdominis muscles arch upwards and backwards to form the conjoint tendon. This conjoint tendon is attached to the pubic crest and the medial part of the pectineal line. It is going to form an important boundary of the inguinal canal, and the deepest structure is the fascia transversalis. Now, starting with the walls, the anterior wall of the inguinal canal is formed from superficial to deep by the skin, the superficial fascia, and deep to it lies the external oblique aponeurosis throughout the interior wall and the internal oblique fibers which form the lateral 1/3 of the anterior wall. The posterior wall from deep to superficial is formed by the fascia transversalis and the conjoint tendon in the medial 2/3. The medial 1/4 also contains the reflected part of the inguinal ligament. Hence, the posterior wall throughout is formed by the fascia transversalis, conjoint tendon medial 2/3 and reflected part of inguinal ligament in the medial 1/4. Coming to the roof is formed by the lower arch aponeurotic fibers of internal oblique and transversus abdominis forming the conjoint tendon. The floor is formed by the upper surface of the inguinal ligament and in the medial part by the lacunar ligament. This is a diagrammatic representation showing the anterior and posterior walls of the inguinal canal. To revise, anterior walls contain mainly two muscles, the external and internal oblique muscles. The posterior wall contains the fascia transversalis and the conjoint tendon. Medial 1/4 also contains the reflected part of the inguinal ligament. The roof is again formed by two muscles, the internal oblique and transversus abdominis, the aponeurotic fibers forming the conjoint tendon. And the floor is formed by the two ligaments, that is the inguinal ligament and the lacunar ligament. So anterior wall, two muscles, roof, again two muscles, posterior wall, the two T's, and the floor, the two ligaments. The boundaries of the inguinal canal are important. This is a diagrammatic representation to remember the anterior and posterior walls. The same diagrammatic representation using colors can be made to draw the arrangement of the structures in the anterior and posterior wall and the roof and the floor. The contents of the inguinal canal. The ilioinguinal nerve is present in the inguinal canal in both the sexes. In male, the spermatic cord is the main content, and in females, the round ligament of uterus. The spermatic cord in males and the round ligament of uterus in females are the contents throughout the inguinal canal. That is, they enter through the deep inguinal ring and exit through the superficial inguinal ring. However, the ilioinguinal nerve enters through a slit between the external and internal oblique muscles. It lies anterior to the spermatic cord and emerges from the superficial inguinal ring. The spermatic cord is a collection of the structures that pass to and from the testis. It enters the deep inguinal ring, passes through the inguinal canal to exit at the superficial inguinal ring. It then extends up to the posterior border of the testis. The contents of the spermatic cord are mainly three arteries, that is the testicular artery, the cremasteric artery, and the artery to the vas deferens. Two other structures, that is the vas deferens, which is the main content, along with it the remnant of the processus vaginalis. Two nerves, that is the genital branch of the genitofemoral nerve and the sympathetic plexus of nerves. Two other structures, the venous plexus called the pampiniform venous plexus and the lymphatics. As the spermatic cord passes through the inguinal canal, the muscles and the fascia which form the walls of the inguinal canal send three facial extensions around it, forming the coverings of the spermatic cord. These three facial coverings from within outward are: the innermost is the internal spermatic fascia, which is derived from the fascia transversalis. The cremasteric fascia, which is derived from the internal oblique muscle, and the external spermatic fascia lies outermost and is derived from the external oblique aponeurosis. To remember the spermatic cord, it has three coverings: internal spermatic fascia, cremasteric fascia, and the external spermatic fascia. three arteries: the testicular artery, cremasteric artery, and the artery to the vas deferens. Two other structures, that is the vas deferens and the remnant of the processus vaginalis. Two nerves: the genital branch of genitofemoral nerve and the sympathetic plexus of nerves. The venous plexus, that is the pampiniform plexus, and the lymphatics. So to remember it, 3, 3, 2, 2 and 1, 1. The inguinal canal is a site of potential weakness in the lower part of the anterior abdominal wall, hence prone to herniation of the abdominal contents. However, this is normally prevented by the strength and tone of the muscles and a few mechanisms which act. These mechanisms which maintain the integrity of the inguinal canal are the flap valve mechanism, that is, the canal is oblique where the superficial and deep inguinal rings do not lie opposite to one another. As a result, whenever there is an increase in the intra-abdominal pressure, the anterior and posterior walls of the canal are approximated like a flap valve. The shutter mechanism. The internal oblique muscle which forms the conjoint tendon forms the anterior wall, roof and posterior wall of the inguinal canal. It acts as a flexible mobile arch. Hence, when it contracts, the roof is pulled and approximated to the floor like a shutter. The slit valve mechanism, that is, the contraction of the external oblique muscle approximates the medial and lateral crura of the superficial inguinal ring like a slit valve. The ball valve mechanism, that is, the contraction of the cremasteric muscle pulls the testis up, which plugs the superficial inguinal ring like a ball valve. The rings or the openings of the inguinal canal are guarded by additional structures, that is, the deep inguinal ring is guarded by the internal oblique muscle anteriorly. The superficial inguinal ring is guarded by the conjoint tendon and reflected part of the inguinal ligament posteriorly. All these mechanisms help in maintaining the integrity of the inguinal canal and thus preventing inguinal hernias. Thank you for your attention.